actually begin to act from that experience that I'm not Marc Gafni's separate egoic self. I'm actually this particular expression of all that is, but I actually feel myself as a lived experience, as part of all that is. I'm part of big heart, big mind, the infinite, the endless. I actually have that experience. I've died to my exclusive identity with ego. Okay? That's called enlightenment. And the problem with that is it's fully half the story. Okay? The problem with that is it's fully half the story. Because the reason virtually the entire Western world has rejected Enlightenment teaching. Okay, make no mistake about it, it's true. Virtually the entire Western world has rejected Enlightenment teaching. Right? You asked Jason to bring 10 classical funders together in a boardroom that he wants to get money from, right? In order to start some big, huge project, and talk to them about kind of the mystical experience, right, of enlightenment upon which he's basing his business. See how far he gets, right? It's not going to happen. He might have some hidden vision to try and bring it in through the back door. He's going to kind of like, right, exactly, right? But if he actually puts it on the table, I think the guy's a little crazy. You know what I mean? He's a brilliant business, he's interesting, he's creative, but like, whoa. Like whoa. Right? Because that's just not appropriate. There's nothing wrong with that. Right? So that experience isn't considered to be, right? So that's a big deal. So class it into why. What's the rejection of that? What's the intuitive, huge rejection of the enlightenment experience? Why has virtually the entire Western world rejected it? Right? As just like people are afraid of it. People are afraid of it. It has not gone down. All the Buddhists in America, it hasn't happened. The vast majority of the Western world, right? And by the way, the Eastern world today, right? all across Dharamsala, very few people hanging out with the Dalai Lama. He said to me, the reason I come to the West is because people like me there. You hang out in Dharamsala, like no one's doing Dalai Lama shit, right? They're trying to get computer jobs. Right? That's actually what's happening, right? He says, in the West, they like me. That's the way he says it, right? The East is hard. Tibet's not doing that. So try to stay with me. Why do we reject? Why does this teaching of enlightenment get so utterly rejected? Why is awakening so utterly rejected? Why? Because
it renders your life meaningless.
Why does it seem to render your life meaningless? You're exactly right. There's this feeling, what did you say before, Stephanie? That I'm absorbed in the all. Right? Enlightenment is I'm absorbed in the all. I'm no longer a separate self. Right? I'm part of the Great One. But what does that do to your life? Everyone stay with me. Stay with me. Go ahead.
You feel like you're not going anywhere.
You're not going anywhere. And, keep going. And stay with it.
Nothing special.
Nothing special about me. Go ahead.
Well, just that thing of like you're just melding into this one blah, like we're all the same, we're all wearing orange robes, we're all like...
Blah. The key word is blah. B-L-A-H. Right? Blah. It's the blahfication, right, of humanity. I'm blah. Right? In other words, I've become blah. Right? And I've become part of this Great One, but actually, I want to be me. For all of my suffering, for all of my crap, I kind of like me. I kind of like hanging out, right, as Ken. I like being Mark. It's kind of fun, right? This is my life. This is my thing. So the problem with enlightenment is that it effaces, right, destroys the experience of the, anyone? Of the self, the separate, the individual. And it's the primary esoteric intuition that we have that's emerged in the world in the last 500 years, is that we are separate individuals with unique, infinite, gorgeous dignity that matters, and our dignity and our rights and our specialness, right, is dependent directly on our being separate selves. You with me? It's a big deal.
In economics,
and our economics,
speaking,
everything.
The society doesn't want you to be enlightened if you're going to become some unproductive person on the street.
Which certainly, because you lose all your motivation. Right. So our whole sense of being an individual is threatened by enlightenment. Everyone get that? This is huge. Our entire, who would want to be enlightened? Enlightenment sucks, right? Because we're actually afraid. We've got this deep fear of enlightenment that no one addresses, right? Which is, we're going to actually lose ourselves. And actually, I don't want to be a no-self, with all due respect, right, to Theravadan Buddhists. I'd rather be a separate, egoic, grasping self than a no-self. Who in this room hears the word no-self and wants to be a no-self? Right, you want to be a no self? Really?
Well, but because I know what it
Well, let's stay with it.
means.
So what is it? Well, a no self by itself means a no self. Right? Meaning there's no separate sense of individuality, which is real. Right? That's actually the tragedy of Enlightenment teaching. Enlightenment teaching got half of the story. So here it is, 2 minutes. You can move beyond your separate self and not lose your uniqueness. Because separateness and uniqueness are two completely different things. Okay? And the biggest mistake of 2,000 years of teaching was the conflation of separateness and uniqueness. That was the biggest mistake in Enlightenment teaching in 2,000 years. You can find it in 1,000 texts. Right? I move beyond my separate self, therefore, I'm told I've got to move beyond my uniqueness. And as one co-teacher of mine, says on the other side of this country, incorrectly, he says, there's no such thing as a unique spiritual experience. That's just not true. Not true. Actually, every spiritual experience is unique. It's actually refracted through the prism of your unique self. And your unique self is the unique expression of your true self. Separate self, you're an ego. Move beyond separate self, you become true self. You actually realize you're part of the one. When you actually sink into that true self experience, you realize you're part of the one looking with Ken's eyes. Looking with Marcy's eyes. And actually, Ken's eyes, Ken's perspective is fundamentally different than Becca's perspective. And Becca is responsible for her perspective. She's responsible to speak that perspective, to live that perspective, give the gifts of that perspective. And there's no other perspective on true self that ever was, is, or will be that will be Becca's perspective. That's unique self. It's not ego. It's not ego. That's not ego. There's ego, true self, unique self. So unique self is the unique expression of my true self. Now, can the ego ever be satisfied? Can it? No way. Can the unique self be satisfied? Just like that. Right? You just have any unique self experience. You're living, you're doing what you do. You're in your unique self. You're not grasping to be anyone else. Right? You actually understand. You have some deep understanding. I'm part of a larger field of existence. I'm part of the seamless code of the universe. But the seamless code of the universe is seamless, it's not featureless. Right? So I'm a unique expression, right, of that seamless code of the universe that never was, is, or will be, and that actually true self-divinity lives in me, as me, and through me. That's unique self. That completely changes the Enlightenment conversation.